look tired. I feel it. It's doing me in. It's doing me in. But anyway, onwards and upwards. These videos are actually the only respite I get, so it's probably so I might go on for 2 or 3 hours here. That frightened you, didn't it? Okay, so lots to get through. Yesterday we published some bits and pieces about what some of the celebs think of amateur theatre. I've got some more of those today, some more quotes from some celebs. I'm going to read them out because I've literally skimmed off some of the interviews that we've done over the years and some of the cover stories, etc. And here we go. So, Anne Reid, we spoke to her in 2017. Anne Reid was, of course, in Dinner Ladies, Last Tango in Halifax with Derek Jacobi. She's been in loads and loads and loads of things. Very good comedy actress. And not a spring chicken anymore. Am I allowed to say that? Hopefully. So Anne told us a lot of amateurs are often as good as professionals. All professionals aren't necessarily good actors, and there are many so-called amateurs who are doing it purely for the love of it and can be better than we are. How interesting that Anne should say that to us. But a lot of us do it for love. People keep saying to me, isn't it about time you retired? Like it's a job. But it's not a job. And the idea of a deck chair at Bournemouth, well, I couldn't think of anything worse, frankly. And then Anne just finishes off. These days, graduates are so savvy, they've all got agents. Back then, I didn't know what an agent was, and they certainly never taught us about that side of the business. So when I left RADA, I joined Rep Theatre as an assistant stage manager, an ASM, where I would also perform small parts. That's what we were saying the other day. Which was the general way of getting into a company. Exactly. You couldn't get in without experience as an actor, but you could become an assistant stage manager and pick up any parts that they needed performing. That's how I started with a season at Bath. It was as simple as that, as if it was simple. It probably was simple, but not easy. Now, we also spoke to Jodie Prenger in 2017. Do you remember Jodie? In 2008, she won the BBC Saturday Night Andrew Lloyd Webber Search for Nancy to play Oliver in the West End. So she won I'd Do Anything, and she was always winning from the very start, I think. She was definitely the people's choice, wasn't she? And since then, Jodie Prenger's become not only an established musical theatre star, but she's also branched out into serious, straight, dramatic acting as well, and she's very good. I've seen her a few times, actually. I saw her in Spamalot as Lady of the Lake. I've seen her in a few things, actually, and she's been good every single time. Shirley Valentine. But Jodie told us in 2017, I think everyone in amateur theatre is in the same boat, really. We all do it because we love it, and that's the great thing, isn't it? I remember I did the National Youth Theatre years ago, which wasn't musical theatre, and I also did a 6-week Shakespeare course at RADA because I love acting so much. I have huge respect for it, and it's great to get your teeth into something where you can show your range and really be truthful. And this is what Jodie told us about after winning I'd Do Anything, which when we spoke to her, it was almost 10 years. I swear, it was just really weird. Every week when I went straight through without going into the sing-offs as one of the last two, I just thought, no, these reality shows can be great, and some are better than others. I think the ones that are better really help carve a career for people instead of being a flash in the pan and a one-hit wonder. The big thing that we need to get away from is people taking part just to be famous and not out of a love of performing. A lot of people nowadays just want to be famous, get their teeth bleached and eyebrows waxed. That's true, isn't it? Which is why BGT and X Factor have been so popular, I guess. You get carted everywhere in a limousine, but it's nothing like that when you get into the industry for real. It's certainly not as glamorous as people think. You really have to graft, and as I said at the beginning, you need to be doing it from the love of doing it. very important, and isn't that what we're all about? Amateur means lover of. So there we go, that's why we do it. And this is again Jodie on amateur theatre. I remember playing Lottie in Mac and Mabel, but I can't for the life of me remember the name of the society. It was great to see how a show works and how everything was put together. I remember after that I managed to work on a Disney cruise ship where they produce these massive shows, and again you really got to know the mechanics of how everything works. There's also a huge theatre etiquette which I first picked up in those early days. I really got into the industry when I started to enter talent contests years and years ago. From that I managed to get some cabaret gigs, and from that became a warm-up act for people like Ken Dodd, Frank Carson and Joe Pasquale. Remember, they've all got their own story, how they got from amateur to where they are today. Now Arthur Bostrom, do you remember him? The Chief of Police in Hello Hello in the early 80s onwards? Yep. Well, we interviewed him in 2017 when he was in Ray Cooney's farce that was going into the West. It was actually touring. It was going to tour. It was Out of Order, the Ray Cooney farce. And we spoke to Arthur. And remember, Hello Hello was 40 years old nearly now. 40 years old. Isn't that incredible? And then the reason I'm putting this in today is because it's so relevant for the year to come, just after the year we've just had. Even though Arthur was talking to us, speaking about 9/11, but after the year we've just had with the pandemic, there's a few parallels that can be drawn. Arthur said to me back then, we need comedy, don't we? And we certainly need it now. I remember being out with a farce on tour when 9/11 happened. I remember going into the theatre that day it happened, and I was with a friend of mine from Hello Hello, Kim Cartman, whose place I've been staying at. We'd been watching all these awful pictures on the television, and I thought, we can't do this silly farce after this. What's it going to be like? But as it turned out, the audience did need it, just to get through the day really, and these are difficult and uncertain times we're in now. So it couldn't be a better time to go out with a comedy where everybody can just take 2 hours off and have a really good belly laugh. It does do you good. I've been told where people have been watching reruns of Hello Hello, for instance, in old people's homes or hospitals, which are very relevant obviously at the moment. After your show has been on, the atmosphere is lighter and people feel better for a couple of days. The mood lasts that long. So don't ever think that what you do is not important. How interesting. How interesting that Arthur was referring to different times back then, but now it's all relevant again, exactly what he says. Sean Williamson was in the same farce, and Sean Williamson, who is famously Barry from EastEnders in Extras with Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant. He was actually called Barry from EastEnders, but he's done loads and loads of stuff. But this is what he said to me. First of all, on Ray Cooney, I think the man deserves a knighthood. He's 85, that was in 2017. He's 85, still working, giving a lot of people work and a lot of people laughter. I've never seen a professional production done of one of Ray's plays, but I've seen lots of them done by amateurs from when I was one. Interesting. What happened was, there was no theatricality in my background at all. Dad was a postman, Mum was a cleaner, and I didn't even take up amateur acting until I was 26. At the same time, I applied to join the Webber Douglas Academy and some others, but they all said no. So at 27, when I was working at a supermarket, I tried again. I said to myself that I'd give it one more go, and if nothing came off, I'd join the supermarket management scheme instead, which was at Safeways, so I'd now be unemployed anyway. But at age 27 I got into Webber Douglas, which funnily enough doesn't exist now either. I was also a Pontoons Bluecoat at a camp that doesn't exist either. I'll tell you, half my life's probably gone. What a nightmare. He's very good at comedy, and the way he... I don't do it any justice just reading it out, but the way Sean relayed the story to me was brilliant at the time, 3 years ago. And he carries on. So I knew this was the last chance saloon to go to drama school age 27. You couldn't even call it postgraduate because I'd never went to uni in the first place. I'd just been a drunkard. This is what Sean's openly said to me. So I lasered in for the full 3 years, and I left age 30 with honours and got into EastEnders within 6 months. How amazing. And I stayed with that till I was 40, but theatre was always my first love, and that's what I really wanted to do. So, since leaving EastEnders in 2004, 16 years ago, when Janine pushed him over that cliff, I've done 33 productions as well as some more TV. That's amazing, isn't it? Now, Simon Murray, who was understudying Sean Williamson and Arthur Bostrom, I believe, or he was understudying someone else than Arthur Bostrom, possibly, in the same Ray Cooney farce, Out of Order, in 2017. The reason I've included this bit from the interview with Simon Murray from 2017 is because he talks about amateur theatre quite a lot, because he came straight out of amateur. He said to me, the last farce I did was as an amateur. I got into this business very late, about 10 years ago, and I'm in my mid-50s now. I changed career basically after deciding that I wanted to become a professional actor. I was involved in sales and marketing for many, many years, and following redundancy, I talked to the family first about doing something a bit different. For about 5 years, I did amateur plays and maintained a living as a taxi driver. This was to see if I really wanted to be an actor. Then I got myself into a drama school, which actually has closed down now. It seems to be a bit of a running theme, doesn't it? The London Centre for Theatre Studies, which was an intensive year-long course. And lastly, from that same production, I spoke to Sue Holderness, who played Marlene, Boyce's wife, in Only Fools and Horses, of course, for years and years and years. So we all know Sue Holderness very well. She said to me, back in the old days when there were so many rep companies around the country, you could run plays like this, meaning Out of Order, the farce, for 3 weeks and audiences would flock to them. The same goes for Eightbourne, the standard fare where people know what to expect. And then she said to me about amateur theatre. I'm the president of Windsor Theatre Guilds, which is obviously where she comes from, where she lives at the moment. So I go to a lot of their productions. I've seen some fantastically strong performers in the amateur world who just haven't thought it sensible to risk this profession, which it is very risky. It's a dangerous world. Amateur means lover of, and that's what I say to advise people who ask me what to say to their daughter or son who might want to go into the theatre. I tell them nowadays to advise them strongly as they can do not to do it, because if they still want to do it enough, then they won't listen to the advice. If you're able to put them off, they didn't want it enough. If they ignore you, they do want it enough and they'll do it anyway. What a good idea. Now, who doesn't know Elaine Page? This is the last one I'm going to do today. Elaine Page, we spoke to in 2017, and Elaine started out in Hair, but she had a massive part in Cats. We all know Evita used to be married to Tim Rice. Sunset Boulevard. She's been doing Radio 2. Do you know how long she's been doing Radio 2 show for? Since 2004. 16 years she's been doing that Radio 2 show. And she gives a lot of shout-outs, doesn't she, to amateur theatre. And she told me 3 years ago, I think it's fantastic. Wonderful thing. Lots of people love theatre, love performing, can sing and act. It's the stuff of life. How can anybody live without music in their life, without art in their life, whether it's painting, visiting art galleries, or performing in your amateur musicals and plays? I think it gives people pleasure, then it's truly wonderful hobby. And of course it brings lots of different people together in a huge collaborative effort, which it certainly does. You've got to get the costumes going, you've got to get the set design, you need the artist to learn the lines and play the characters, you've got to have a director, musicians, goes on and on and on. We all know about that, don't we? It's the most marvellous way of communities coming together to enjoy something collectively, and I'm all for it. If you don't know of a drama school, or if you don't want to devote all your time to it, then amateur theatre is always a way to make it into the profession, isn't it? You're able to take it on, give it a go, and see whether it's if you've got what it takes. To do it professionally, of course, is another matter altogether, but amateur theatre is the perfect way to discover if it's something you may want to do. And we've only gone back a few issues to get all of these quotes from yesterday, from today together, and we'll keep going. We've got more. We've got advice. We've got some panto quotes, panto advice, which is very important to the amateur theatre industry, haven't we? And more quotes generally on amateur theatre. So we'll bring you more tomorrow. But in the meantime, stay safe, stay well. We will be back. Homeschooling. See you later. Bye.